that's why channels like The Crucible exist, It's like they bring people on in opposition. And it's like, if you can't debate an idea and you can't handle someone opposing your view, it's like, how are you going to grow? It's like, fuck. Leftism in that whole world, it's really interesting. They desire foundations, right? They infiltrate foundations, but they reject truth. These things can't go together. You can't have a foundation without the truth. Otherwise, you just poison the foundation and there's nothing there, and eventually it deteriorates. And that's what we see. And I didn't want to be a part of that. I saw that was the case, and it's still the case. That's one conclusion, one of some or many, that I'm like, oh, that's never changing. That worldview, that relativistic sort of like hedonistic, do anything you want, worship your will, it always leads to just self-destruction. And that was eye-opening to me. To some people, if you're on the team, it's demoralizing. But from my perspective, if you look at it from the perspective of what's true and good and what's not, if it's a spiritual war of good and evil, then you're free, especially in my kind of world, to mock the shit out of who's on your team. Stop infighting, JimBob, all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm going for it. I'm gonna basically put everyone on the chopping block, because I don't have that red blue jersey paradigm. I almost I don't look at something and go, that's my side anymore. Like I look at who's closer to following like an ultimate truth that transcends cultural and political trends. And so once you get into the trends, we're all drawn to a pragmatic, almost utility based, not utility based, let's say just like outcome based. Like, can we create a good country? Can we create let's say, in my view, a Christian based country?
Consequentialist rule.
Yeah. Like if we can just get people, there's always this tendency in all of us to go, if we can just X, then Y will happen. And though that's rational, it's just that it can be a trap sometimes, because you'll be in this never-ending pursuit of material outcomes, and it can be good, right? And it could bring you it could even bring you closer to community and build a strong community and protect a community with like-minded people and such. But it could also bring you away from, in my view, it can bring you away from God. Even if you think you're pursuing an ultimately good end, it's a little bit of a trick. But here's the thing. I don't know the answer to I don't know the answer to that conundrum. How I talked about this on a recent stream is like, how far do we fight in the world? You know what I mean? And how much do we work to get away from this like beastly system? Like, from my view, we can't ever fully escape the beastly system that is worldliness. But at the same time, how much do we intervene? Do we jump fully in? Do we surround ourselves with the enemies? Do we try to convert them? These are the questions that kind of bog me down in my head. They're never quite political questions. They're more like this like long form spiritual warfare, and not knowing the answer. And I talk to people about this personally. I talked to my mom even about this, like how much do we intervene? How much
I have the answer for you.
Tell me.
I do. One person at a time.
One
person at a time.
Love
one soul at a time. One individual debate, conflict, engagement, one at a time. And if you only leave this world having converted one to the right way of thinking about life, you've won, Jim.
I take that approach. I go person to person, not one to abstract many out there. And so yeah, that's fulfilling too, because you could have a moment with someone who you maybe you diametrically oppose their view. You have totally opposite views, and you can identify with the personhood of that being, and something transcends in that moment even. And you never know the impact you have on people. And that's another catchy part of it, isn't it? Like, we want this causal effect in the world. But sometimes our biggest impact on people, it goes unseen our entire life. We might not
And it
see it.
should, and it should go unseen for a lot of it, and that is a pivotal message of Christ himself, in fact.
Right.
And the thing is that the most charitable thing that I think you can do is just keep doing what you're doing, and one at a time. Maybe we don't have to worry so much about the giant ripple effect, right? Just moral men being moral is a massive ripple effect.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I've contended with those same thought patterns for a long time, until I kind of recognized the futility of the fact that there's 7 billion people in the world, and if we're really have this notion that we're going to change the world or change all of society, that's egotism at its maximus, and we probably wouldn't actually like the society that we changed everything into, even if we had our way, because we're not God, you know. When you brought up consequentialism, you know, they're completely contrarian to each other. All of the hedonists who follow utilitarianism, who are just looking for the best outcomes. But I mean, you have to admit that outcome-based thinking is far easier for people to justify than that they have a duty to do something, even if it doesn't seem like that duty to do it makes any sense to you at the time. This is what moral ethics are all about, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Doing the right thing, a lot of times, especially now, I would argue that doesn't always, if not hardly, produces the outcome you want, your personal desires. The preferred outcome is that no one loses their job for being an outspoken Christian against, let's say, homosexuality. but doing a duty to say what's true, right? I forgot the verse. It's such a good verse that our job is to basically diminish all arguments, all these arguments that attempt to make God unknown. I forgot
Pedro's pulling it up for you.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Because I think it's Corinthians. It's
Corinthians.
Yeah. Everybody forgets the first part, though. Our job is to destroy every argument that's lofty, bent against the knowledge of Christ, and to submit every one of our thoughts to Christ.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that is basically ends up being the battle. But when you go, well, no, I don't want to bend Dave Rubin's thoughts to Christ. I'm going to just let him have his outsourced babies with the dude. And it's like, you don't have to hate the people to say you disagree with them. And this is what we're fundamentally losing even now with what we call our team, or what's is closely represents our team that's on the TV WWE world. And so, but people have to realize that you can be loving and absolutely full of your conviction. You can express your conviction and be fully loving. You can say, no, that's inverted. I believe that's inverted. They might have to deal with whatever emotions they go through, but that's like a kid. These are children of God. This is no different than being a father and the daughter, like, why can't I do X? And you're like, this is why. And this is, we all, in a way, we all police each other. But the command was like, even ordained kings follow a law beyond them, right? And so we're, in a way, parents are ordained kings, but we're not like kings. We have an obligation and the duty, as Andrew put it, to speak out. And it's not this like throw them off a roof, like, this. It's really easy to go there. I've had thoughts, but it's like, you can't go there. You have to be Christ-like in the opposition. And what does that look like? You have to go to what it looks like. And that's the whole point. It's like
you don't need to do that anyway, right?
Right.
When you really boil it down, it's not necessary. What is necessary, though, what's really, I think, the shame is, what's been taken away from us, is that what really keeps people in line, what keeps men in line, what keeps them adhering to their duty is the fact that they can be made fun of. Okay.
Right.
Shame is what keeps men on the moral path, right? Sometimes just a comment like, hey man, change your shirt, or hey, you stink, get the hell away. It's just small things like that, right?
Yeah.
Those are great ways to help people improve themselves. I mean, massively.
Yeah.
Great ways to help people improve themselves. And the bastards took it away from us, JimBob.
They did. On a certain field or platform, they did. And that's what, like, the essence of like brotherhood or camaraderie or anything like that. Like this sense of, even I have 3 older brothers, and there's a freedom to be able to mock in a loving way or keep people in line, but also confront them when they're doing something. It's not that even the failure to celebrate ends up being not a confrontation. In other words, if one of your friends is doing something degenerate and they even confide to you, you can say, stop being a degenerate, dude. And they'll appreciate and love you for it. Even if they don't listen to you right away, they want that guidance in their life, just like children do, where they hit the border and they go, well, there's no one telling me the border. Maybe there's no border. Maybe there is no boundary. I have no boundaries. And it's like all of us together, we're constantly in this position to be able to do that in given moments. And that's this, what you said, that the removal of the mockery is parallel with this, it's like you remove the mockery and then you remove the willingness to be confrontational, as men. And confrontational doesn't mean you beat someone up because you want to put them in line. It's that just the confrontation of making a moral stand for someone else and being like, stop, dude. Like you would do for your own brother who is killing himself with certain behaviors. You shake him out of it. That's what people desire. And they hate you for it in the short term, but they love you for it in the long term.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Before I move it over to Pedro, I'm sorry. I just want to remind the chat that we've only got JimBob here for about another half hour. We're going to get to Q&A shortly. Make sure that you get those questions in now because you won't have a chance to probably for too much longer. Go ahead, Pedro. I'm sorry.
Well, I kind of actually want to stay on this point, and this is a question to you too, Andrew and JimBob. Is it really shaming someone to look at your fellow, image bearer in the eye, right? Whether he's reprobate or saved, and tell him what activity you're in right now is going to kill you. Yeah. And it's going to leave you nowhere good.
Yeah, it is shaming him, but it's good. Listen,
I feel like it's good.
I think the thing that progressives miss the most, and they don't know it yet, is their ability to shame the thoughts and the ideas that are around them and the people that are around them. They don't know how bad that hurts inside yet, but they're learning it slowly but surely. And when I look at JimBob's art now, I'm sure everybody interprets art differently. That's what it's there for. You know what I mean? But the real mirror that I see held up to progressives is, I know that you fuckers think this. I know you fuckers think this too, but you're not even allowed to. You can't even do what I'm doing, where I'm out of sight, out of mind, and this is what I can do. You can't even do this. And the prison is of your own making.
Yeah, it's
totally right. And that's shame, man. Boy, that's shame in a way, and on a level like you can't even imagine. That's shame.
That's like a preview for hell. Imagine living in your life, right? And not being able to actually say what's true because you've already locked yourself in with ironically changing rules that are based on the concept that nothing's true. Like, you know what I mean? So the weird part about progressivism is that if nothing's true, there's no progress toward anything. And the only objective progress there could possibly be is toward truth. Everything else would be an arbitrary, goal. Like, I want to finish my house or something, like I want to do this or that, but people need to love the truth and want to pursue it. And so that being separate from the truth and cutting off your own ability to interact with it and argue for it and share it must be just like the waiting room. It's like the green room for eternal hell. Like hell, everyone thinks of like hell, the worst possible concepts, what was it, Augustine, like all the burning and all of the terrible things you can think of in Dante's Inferno. But to me, it's enough. The concept of being separate from God, to me, logically means absolute unintelligibility and real madness. Such a madness, you can't even look at it and call it madness. That's how mad it is. Like, and that, I bet people feel some of that in these worlds, in these cultures, in these subcultures, even in America, that are pushing the upside down world. They think they're heading somewhere. They're not heading anywhere. They're heading to Disney World as a country,
Well, as Marcus Aurelius said, right, it's not enough to be amongst the majority, though the real goal is just not to join the madness, right? Just
Right.
don't be among
Exactly.
the ranks of the mad.